We good? Awesome. I'm Nathan Fox. I am one of the co-founders of LSAT Demon. The purpose of this class, or the name of the class, is the LSAT is easy. I say that because I 100% believe it to be true. As an LSAT teacher, I think that my job is to show you guys how easy the test actually is. My job isn't to complicate things or sell you a bunch of unnecessary theory and strategies and stuff to memorize. My job is to show you how the LSAT makes perfect sense. I have a couple helpers here today. Jen is here from LSAT Demon. Abigail's here from LSAT Demon. You can have direct conversations with them via the chat if you would like to in the background. We also have a public chat that's open, so please don't be shy about asking questions over there, or comments or stupid jokes or whatever. Use that chat, please, to participate in the discussion. The other thing I want to have you guys do is queue up. There's a raise hand feature under reactions in Zoom. It looks like that. And if you raise your hand, then I will call on you. I want to have an actual discussion with you guys. We have an agenda in front of us that has 4 questions on it. I wanted to start with the first one today. What do you think the LSAT should test, and why? I would love it if somebody would raise their hand and let me call on you. What do you think the LSAT tests, or what do you think the LSAT should test, and why do you think that that's what the LSAT should test? Don't be shy. Somebody's got to start. Heather.
I guess it should test our reasoning skills, and also make sure that we're able to digest whatever the law school professors are assigning to us.
Okay, so what do you mean by reasoning skills, Heather?
I guess like looking at things that could go together or not go together. I don't know. That's probably more general than you're looking for.
No, I think that that's a good start. You also said determine whether, what did you say about law school? Whether you're going to be able to digest?
To digest the information that you're given and the cases that you're reading, and make sure that you actually are able to understand the material.
Awesome. Kyle.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I would think at its basics, it should just test whether the person possesses the skills necessary to be successful in law school.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's for, right? They're using it as an admission test to figure out whether you're going to be an asset or a detriment to their law school. Are you going to get it? Are you going to do it? Are you going to be successful there? Or are you not? I think we definitely have to understand that sort of core foundational reason why the LSAT exists. They have thousands of applicants. They need to sort through them somehow. And so they're using the test to determine, whether you have what it takes. So what does it take then? What do you think it takes in law school? GRA, want to go?
Sure, I can do my best. I think maybe there's 2 abilities that are most important in my opinion. The first one is whether or not you understand what others are saying. So basically recognize argument, and whether their premise is actually supporting their conclusion. And the second is understand why they're stating that, is understand their agenda. Because they just say bunch of things at me, they must have some intention of doing that.
Yeah, your ability to, comprehend a document, because documents are critical to what I would say literally every lawyer does. Documents are extremely important. and you need to be able to determine what's there. As far as arguments are concerned, yeah, you need to be able to figure out, hey, first of all, what do you even want? What are you saying? What is your conclusion? What are you trying to do here? And then why are you doing that? What is your justification for that? So like, are you relying on a statute? Are you relying on some previous legal precedent? Are you relying on a background common, like accepted principle of law? How are you building your case? You know, what's your authority? What's the evidence? How's the evidence relate with that authority? And what is the argument that you're making? Ira. You're just muted, Ira.
Am I good now?
There we go. Yep.
Okay. It's nice to meet you guys, everybody. I've tried to come on to this a few times. I just haven't got there yet. But anyway, being someone who's looked at many documents himself because of various legal issues, basically, what's the situation and what are they trying to accomplish by trying to assist you? Is there something that you're asking them to do for you? They have to draft a document. And is that actually what you're trying to accomplish? Whether you're trying to sue someone, or I got an issue going myself right now, sorry, not to throw that in there, but he's drafting a document for me to, you know, approach this other party with and say, hey, this is what you need to do for me. You got 14 days to make good.
Okay, so yes, lawyers obviously draft documents. They need to meet with clients. They need to figure out what the issue is. What do you want? What's the problem? What are you trying to fix here? And then think about relevant, you know, legal authority and how to craft the document that's going to actually meet the client's goals. Thank you, Ira. Kate.
So for me, the LSAT has really been a test of patience and concentration. And I think that's something to bring into law school as well, the patience and concentration to read what's in front of you. And that was a major problem for me with reading comprehension and logical reasoning, is we get ahead of ourselves and we're thinking about the time frame and we want to rush through it, and you lose your concentration because you're not patient enough to slow down and read what's in front of you.
1000% agree. Why is that relevant to law school? Well, let's see. In your first semester of law school, you're going to have, like, people get rolling backpacks so that they can carry their books to and from class. You can't do it in a regular backpack because you would hurt yourself. I mean, that's the type of reading that you're going to be doing when you're in law school. And so absolutely, they're testing your patience, they're testing your focus, they're testing your ability to read a whole bunch of boring stuff that you didn't select. But that's what lawyers do. You're gonna have to get in there and, you know, force yourself to read and comprehend. And so the LSAT does that in miniature with its reading comprehension section. It's nothing compared to the reading that you're going to see in law school. Susanna and then Jamie.
Hi. Yeah, in short, I think it also tests confidence. I feel like when you have a short time frame, I see in the chat there's a little bit of a debate going on there. You have to be confident in your skills and skill set. That I guess that requires a lot of training in the first place. But I don't know, thinking on your feet and having the ability to kind of adapt to these situations. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to disagree. At LSAT Demon, we really don't look at time constraints. We just don't want you thinking about time constraints. We want you solving questions and getting them right. And students who insist on, like, they never can let go of the time aspect of the test, those are actually the least the students who make the least progress, I guess I should say. I mean, your thinking about the time interferes with the task at hand, which is answering the questions correctly. If you can't answer the questions correctly, then it doesn't matter how much time. It matters whether you get them right. We've sent people to elite law schools across the country. I'm talking about literally Harvard, Stanford, Yale, We have sent people, multiple students to all of those schools, and not all of them finished their test on time. I mean, we've got a guy, Carl, who works for us. He's back in between his 1L and 2L years at Yale Law School, and Carl did not finish his reading comprehension. He got a 179, so he almost finished, but he didn't finish, and he didn't care that he didn't finish, because he was doing the work of a lawyer, taking his time, getting them right, and he just got them all right. If you get them all right, good things happen. Your problem, none of your problem. I mean this to make the LSAT easier for you. Your problem is not the ones that you didn't have time to attempt. Your problem is the ones that you missed, or the ones that you struggled with and maybe you guessed right, but it took forever. That's your problem, is the questions that are actually bothering you. The ones you didn't do, you get to guess on those for free. You're going to get 1 out of 5 of them right without spending any time whatsoever on the ones you don't attempt. The ones you do attempt, you have to get paid for. And if you learn how to get paid for the work you're doing, you'll realize that you have more time than you think, because the questions are easier than you think. When you get to the point where you can get them all right, then your speed will improve accidentally without ever having to force yourself to go fast. Does that make sense, Susanna?
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I was just saying like confidence in the first place. I think it was Dana who said it in the chat, like you have to be confident with the answer you choose, and like adding time is going to, reflect on the fact that you don't know what you're doing in this case. I mean,
so, okay, I will agree with that idea. If by confident in the answer you choose, what you mean is you've solved the question and you know that that is correct.
Yes.
That's what I mean by confident. Okay, so
yes.
let's be clear, because some students have this, I think, misconception, which is basically, well, I got to go, I missed this question, and when I go back and review it, I see that I had picked B, but then I changed it to D, and then I missed it. And it's the problem isn't that you changed your answer. The problem isn't that you weren't confident enough in your original answer. The problem there is that you didn't figure it out.
Right.
Like you couldn't understand why the right answer was right. And because you couldn't understand why the right answer was right, you ended up picking a wrong answer. And that's it's a failure of confidence to the extent that it is a failure to actually solve the question. All right, let's go Rashida and then Yashika.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So for me with the LSAT, this would be my more than 2 times taking it, I'll just say that. But it has taught me to rethink the way I think. So,
what do you mean?
So for instance, I may think this way because I'm older, and because I'm thinking that, okay, this is the right thing or the right process. But when it comes to the LSAT, it causes me to look at things a different way. So I'm thinking, so by me being, for instance, I'm a professional. So I'm thinking as a professional, this is how it should be. But with the LSAT, it kind of changed the way your normal thinking pattern is.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at there, Rashida, is that they're just not testing your opinion on the LSAT ever. Right. I think in college, you guys got tested on your opinions a lot. I think you guys wrote papers that were basically your opinions a lot. That never happens on the LSAT, not once. Now, it's not the case that you can't bring in outside information or outside perspectives. You're a professional person, Rashida. You're allowed to take knowledge that you know from your professional life and let it help you figure out the question. But you have to answer the question, and the question that's being asked is not, what's your opinion on this? What do you think the answer should be? Rather, the question that it's asking you is like, hey, how do you make that argument better? Or, hey, what is a flaw that is inherent in that argument? And it's not like, oh, I'm going to pick this answer because I think the environment should be protected. I don't care what you think. The test doesn't care what you think. The test cares whether you can analyze the argument, figure out what the evidence is, figure out what the conclusion is, and then assess whether the argument makes sense. And so that is a very different way of thinking for most people. I still see students all the time picking just kind of opinion-based answers, and that just is not what we're doing. Yashika, and then Catherine.
I'm sorry, one more thing. I just purchased your LSAT Demon about 2 days ago, and I must say I loved it. I wish I would have done it beforehand. I would have been in law school right now, but better late than never. Thank you.
Law school will always be there. No one here needs to rush. You have all the time in the world. I don't care how old you are. You have plenty of time. Law school every single year admits thousands of people. And if you don't do it this year, you could do it next year. If you don't do it next year, you could do it the year after that. The important thing is to go to the right school for the right price. We preach don't pay for law school around here. I think that might blow some of your minds, but we literally don't think you should pay for law school. We think you should get a scholarship to law school. That's our mission. Okay, so we're talking about what you think the LSAT should test and why. I think we've covered a lot of good stuff. At some point, we're going to transition here into how do you think you're supposed to study for the test, given all of those things, which I think are totally correct. Like, why are they testing what they're testing? I think it makes perfect sense why they test what they test. Okay, so then how do we go about studying for the test? Let's try Yashika and then Catherine. Yashika, what's up?
So first off, thank you, Nathan, for doing this. And I think for the LSAT, like at least the way I see it, and something I struggle with as well, is looking past sort of the convoluted vocabulary that they use, and sometimes like really, I don't know, just weird sentences that they use, and trying to figure out what they're actually trying to say. Sometimes
why do you think they do that, Yashika? Why do you think they have? Well, wait. Do you think that they do that because they want you to choose the wrong answer?
Well, I think they do that to show us the extent that things can actually be like, because like you were talking about earlier, how people get like roller backpacks or whatever for their type of reading we're doing. I assume that reading isn't the easiest language in the world. So, I mean, I think that they're making the sentences in the LSAT really convoluted to show us like how difficult actual law school textbooks can be.
Well,
and trying.
No, they're not trying to show you anything. They're trying to let you show that you have what it takes to do the type of things that are going to be required of you every single day in law school.
Yeah, well, that was going to be the second part of what I was going to say, which is like to test if we can actually understand what they're saying, despite like regardless of what type of language they're using, and if we can look at the holes in the argument. First off, even like spot what argument they're making, then look at like the holes in the argument, try to see what, like questions that are asking about inferences aren't just asking them for the sake of asking them. They're trying to see if we can actually read between the lines and figure out what somebody's asking for, what somebody's trying to persuade us about.
Yeah, look, on the reading comprehension, they're explicitly testing whether you can comprehend what you read. It says it right in the name. They're not like tricking you. They're not hiding the ball. But if they made it easy, then everyone would score perfectly and they would learn nothing. They need to make it convoluted and hard so that not everybody gets them all right. I mean, even though the answers are right there in the document, they're asking you questions that are answered in the document. The answer's on the page.
Yeah.
And so they're testing whether you can understand what you read. On logical reasoning, they're testing your ability to understand and attack arguments. What's your evidence? What's your conclusion? Does this make sense? Is it totally wrong? Is it pretty good, but it's got some missing pieces? Or is it actually airtight, which it sometimes is on the LSAT? And you've got to be able to read those arguments, understand them. So it's always a reading comprehension test. Then you've got to be able to do that kind of lawyerly argumentation of accepting evidence and then arguing about what the conclusion is that could be drawn from that evidence. So they're testing very lawyerly things on the reading comprehension and on the logical reasoning both. What do we think they're testing on the games?
Oh, can I go into this? My answer
Yes.
was to go into this. Okay, first I want to say, Nathan, your book, your logical reasoning book was like a heaven sent. It was so helpful for me at the beginning when I was starting my LSAT journey. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Catherine. Let me just make a point about that. I have lots of books that are for sale on Amazon. All of that content has been rolled into the LSAT Demon. So before anybody goes and buys my book for $80 or whatever on Amazon, a subscription to the Demon will get you all of that plus way, way more. So thank you for the compliment, Catherine, but all that stuff has been updated in the LSAT Demon. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was going to say is I feel as though in addition to being able to think on your feet, I feel as though the LSAT really delves into being able to see one problem in various and different perspectives. And I feel as though logic games really goes into that, being able to see in the ordering games and the other games that there are so many different ways to arrive at the correct answer. And I think as a lawyer, you have to be able to see when you're working on a case, what are the different perspectives and what are the different ways that this could be solved? And for me, I'm a psychologist, so logic games was really hard for me because my training has been when I assess a client, they fall into one of 5 different eligibilities. So logic games has really kind of forced me to kind of stretch my mind and see things in different perspectives and different resolutions.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at there is, I agree. I think that this is the reason why the logic games is on the test for the time being. There's some rumor that it's going away. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. We talk about that all on the Thinking LSAT podcast, by the way. On the games, they are giving you a set of controlling rules, and you might think of these as statutes, or you might think of these as precedents, or you might think of these as facts that have been admitted into evidence. So what they're doing on the logic games is very much like, can you assess the facts that are in the case? Can you assess the statutes that might control the outcome in this case? Can you assess the precedents that might control the outcome in this case? And on the game, unlike in law school where there is no correct answer, on the logic games, there is a correct answer to every single question, and it's fact based on the facts that they have given you. So lawyers have to go, okay, wow, let's see, boy, I've got a county government and a federal, a state government and a federal government, and they all have constitutions and statutes, and they all have legal cases. And so I have to consider what the California Supreme Court might say about this, but then I have to consider what the Supreme Court of the United States might say about this, and then I have to integrate them all to figure out what the correct answer is. And again, in law, there just is no correct answer. But on the LSAT, it's like, hey, it's a simplified version of that same activity. It's like, here's the 5 different competing things. They're all fact. They all have to be true. And if you think about these 5 things that have to be true, then we're going to ask you some questions that if you read them carefully and actually understand what you're being asked, there is one and only one correct answer. There are 4 objectively wrong answers, and you can figure it out. At LSAT Demon, we do not do types. We don't do templates. We don't do a bunch of memorizing strategies. Rather, at LSAT Demon, we encourage you to solve the puzzle in whatever way you see fit. Yeah, we have lots of different kind of ways, you know, common tricks or common, I don't want to say templates, because that's not really it. There's like patterns that recur in the nature of the facts that they've given you. And yeah, so there are some games that look similar to other games, but it's more like, oh yeah, I've done this before. I can sort this out for you, no problem. Because every game is unique, literally unique. And so you are integrating the information that you're given and solving the puzzle in whatever way makes the most sense to you. I think it's a very lawyerly thing.
Can I make another comment?
Yeah.
Real quick. Okay, so I think it was Saturday or Sunday, you guys had a free prep test, PT, I think it was 65, where we did it together. So at the end, you guys had a debriefing, and I don't know if it was you or another guy, and you said, don't worry about finishing the whole test. And I got my highest score on that test because I used that theory. And that was just such an epiphany where it's like, you know what, Kathy, focus on what you know and getting that right. And if you have to guess, so it's like, I just want to say that was just such an eye opener, and it kind of helped, it's really helping me to direct my studies.
Thank you, Catherine. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing another class just like this one, same day, same time, 2 weeks from now. And that one is going to be about how accuracy beats speed every time on the LSAT. I'm going to give you some examples about Mr. Speed versus Ms. Accuracy. And we're going to look at what if they're at a high level, who wins, speed or accuracy? What if they're at a medium level, who wins, speed versus accuracy? What about at the lowest levels, very beginning LSAT students, who wins, speed versus accuracy? And it's pretty clear that accuracy really does beat speed today, tomorrow, next month, and next year. It doesn't matter where you are in your prep, just getting them right is always what we're doing. All right, we're going to go to Deja, and then we're going to go to Connor.
Okay, hi everybody. So I took the LSAT last June, right? And I took it like after having never did anything. I just was like, oh, this is like any other test. I'll just go sit down and start answering the questions. I did horribly. So what it taught me was that the LSAT test reading comprehension. And I just feel like the main thing is just understanding what you are reading. And once you do that, it's like the whole world opens up. Because like I've been reading all my life. I'm 36 years old and I taught my kids how to read. And I learned on the LSAT that I didn't know how to read, right? Like I know how to say words, but I wasn't understanding it. And with the Demon, I've been able to break it all apart and understand it and know what I'm looking at and then apply it and pull it apart and things like that. So,
lawyers are knights of the English language.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a successful lawyer, you are going to be a person who understands what you read and who understands what you write and who understands what you say and who understands what other people say. You're a gladiator of English. You're fighting battles on someone else's behalf because you're better at the words.
Yeah.
And so it is always on all sections of the test, reading comprehension, logical reasoning, and games, it is always a reading comprehension test first. And some people kill the LSAT with no prior prep simply because they just, I refuse not to understand. I am not going to let my eyes glaze over a single word of this test. I'm going to read it. I'm going to understand it. If I don't understand it the first time, I'm going to reread it immediately and force myself to understand it because the questions make sense. Yeah.
Biggest thing, because I was just like annoyed at first to have to actually stop and take it in because you're so used to like in undergrad, they teach you to read, but you're not really reading for understanding. So I'm reading, I'm like, why the hell don't I know what I just read the sentence before? So I think the only thing it tests, and this might be going on a limb, is like reading comprehension, because once you know what you read, what they ask you and what they're expecting you to figure out, that's it. You just go, whether you're doing logic games, reasoning, whatever, you just go from there. So that's
it's the shocking truth about the test is it says what it means. It means what it says. It's asking you questions And if you just understand what they're asking you, they're giving you the information to answer the question. It's not multiple guess. It's understand, it's solve the question. Predict the answer half the time or more. I mean, on logical reasoning, I'm predicting the answer 75% of the time. On reading comp, I'm probably predicting the answer half the time. On games, maybe I don't quite like take the time to try to predict, but the setups that I do for games, you know, the diagrams, the inferences that I've made, the combinations of facts that I have noticed have predicted those answers before they even ask me the question. So in a lot of ways on the games, I'm predicting 100% of the questions in advance. The test is easy. It makes sense. You just have to read it in such a way that you make it make sense. We're going to go to Connor and Colleen, and at some point we're going to shift gears into, do you know what score you need and how would you know what score you need? Connor.
Hi, Nathan. Back to the question, how should we study for the LSAT? I have your pro version, and Ben always compares it to studying like a triathlon. Like you want to make sure you're going through each section equally in a study session. I just wanted to see your outlooks, how I should be using my time wisely in studying. Should I be doing lessons and then doing drills? Should I, like, what's the best way in your opinion to tackle the program?
The way to tackle the LSAT is one question at a time. You guys need to go for clicks. By clicks, I mean something that didn't make sense. It's a question that you missed, and now you're going to make it make sense. You're going to figure out that question. The test is roughly 1/3 logical reasoning, 1/3 reading comprehension, 1/3 games. So assuming you have imperfection in all three areas, you should probably spend roughly 1/3 of your section, 1/3 of your time on each of those subject areas. If you're perfect on one of the sections, then you know you could probably spend less time on that section, just some time to stay sharp. But most people aren't perfect, not yet, on probably any of the sections. And if you're not perfect on any of the sections, then yeah, I think you can probably spend roughly equal time on each of those three sections. As far as what you should do, I think every Demon student needs to be drilling at least sometimes. I can't imagine like trying to get better at logical reasoning without using our drilling tool. All of you have an LSAT Demon free account, so you guys have access to the drilling tool. Go drill, do a question of logical reasoning, get it right. If you get it right and it's a piece of cake, okay, then don't read the explanation, don't watch the videos. But as you get more of them right, the Demon's going to feed you harder questions, and eventually you're going to miss one. And that's where you need to get pissed and spend all the time that you need watching videos, reading explanations, using our ask button to make sure that you're getting to the click so that you can understand exactly why the right answer is right, why you didn't pick it, why the wrong answer is wrong, and why you did pick it. You need to go deeper on each mistake so that you can not make that same exact mistake next time. If you're a live subscriber of LSAT Demon, we recommend that you also throw in some classes. But at the lower levels, you can do drilling, you can do timed sections, you can do a full test every once in a while, probably not more than every other week or something like that to sit down and do a full test. But the thing you have to dedicate yourself to is, I'm not doing an LSAT question unless I am willing to commit the time to review it if I don't perfectly understand it. Like, I'm not doing this question if I'm not doing it with the intention of understanding it perfectly eventually. Like, it doesn't have to be my first answer, but I can't go work on another question until I've figured this question out. And the Demon is built to support that endeavor. Does that make sense, Connor?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right. Colleen and then Camilla.
Hi, Nathan. Thank you.
Hi.
I don't know if this will be useful for anyone, but one of the things I noticed when I was studying, particularly like logical reasoning, I think what really started to move the needle for me is, I mean, obviously like reading and understanding, but I think one of the habits that I have and maybe is common in our society is that we kind of gloss over some of these like heavy modifiers, I think. For example, like the things that refer to absolutes versus things that imply relative state to other things. I think when I think I struggled with those for a while. And when I realized that, hey, like I can't like gloss over these modifiers or really gloss over anything, but I think like when we talk, when it says things like most or olive or things like that, those words would trip me up sometimes.
Yeah.
And when I really slowed down and like focused on these modifiers and realized that these modifiers actually make the difference between the right and the wrong answer, then that's when like my scores started to like really improve in like logical reasoning and reading comp and stuff like that.
The LSAT is literal. Thank you, Colleen. The LSAT is literal. Like they don't say literally to mean figuratively the way we do in our horrible normal conversation. Lawyers don't use words that way. Lawyers are going to go, wait, that word doesn't mean that. Stop saying that he literally ripped his head off on the play. No, he did not. That's a David Cross joke that I stole. But I mean, he what? It's just not what that word means. And most does not mean some, does not mean all. I mean, those things like they have actual meanings. Okay, thank you. Colleen, it sounds like you had something else you want to say.
Yeah, there was one other thing. So that was the thing that helped me make the most gains on LR and reading comp. I was terrible at the games when I started, and what was a light bulb moment for me is like the whole concept of making worlds. I really like that. I'd been working with an instructor before who's really good, and he drilled down on making as many inferences as possible before you even look at the questions. Like that helped me a lot because when you have those inferences written down, then the questions go faster. But then also, if you can make worlds from those inferences, I found that also especially helpful. And nowadays, like it doesn't bother me that I spend maybe like 5 minutes on a setup of a game, because I know that once I get these worlds down, that the questions will go a lot faster.
Yeah, it might take you 45 seconds to answer all 6 questions after you did your 5 minutes worth of work figuring out your worlds. Colleen, I want to kind of redirect you a little bit on the idea of worlds. I think it's really useful. I think you'll like this, Colleen. I think we're always making worlds. It's just that sometimes we only make one world. I think that your other teacher would just call that making inferences, but I call it figuring out the world we're living in. If there's a rule that impacts another rule, then connecting those rules together is thinking about the world we're living in. What's the system, right? We're not looking at one law or one statute or one precedent. We're looking at the system of laws that govern the little puzzle that they've given you in the logic game. And so sometimes, yeah, if there's a guy who can only go in 1 or 2 places, then I might split it off into, well, we're either in this world or we're in that world. But even if I don't make that split, I still consider it to be making one world. Sometimes one world can solve the game. Does that resonate, Colleen?
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Yes.
Colleen, do you know what score you need?
I need, it's wild. I need a 175, basically.
You need a 175. Why?
I'm gonna be a heavy splitter. So I'm shooting for the highest possible LSAT.
Well, everyone should be shooting for the highest possible LSAT, Colleen. Everyone should be shooting for the highest possible LSAT. I don't care if you have a 4.3 GPA, you want the highest LSAT you can possibly get, because it's the first determinant. It is the primary determinant of where you're going to be admitted, and super importantly, how much you're going to pay to go there. Colleen, how did you settle on 175 specifically?
Well, basically, I do want to go T14, and I every time I listen to your guys' podcast and someone calls in saying they have a low GPA, I'm like, mine is way lower than that. I think I listened to your podcast and you said you went to UCLA, and I think you and I had the same. No, I'm
I
sorry,
went to
my
UC
bad.
Hastings.
My bad. Yeah, you went to UC Hastings, and I think you and I had the same undergrad GPA. So if I want to go T14 with that GPA, then I'm gonna need like a mid 170s.
How do you know that?
I went to the scholarship estimator and just kind of, and then I also went to, yeah, so mostly the scholarship estimator, but then also like other little like algorithms on the internet that kind of show me my
Great.
chances of getting into any of them.
I would start everybody, if you don't know, I mean, it's great that Colleen knows the answer. Colleen is like, I need a 175. A 175 is going to get me to the school I want to go to at the price I want to pay. Colleen, I would discourage you from being rock solid, just like committed to the top 14, because what about 15? What about 16? What about 17? What about 18? Who cares about the magical top 14? The rankings change. Schools drop in and out of the top 14 sometimes. Don't get obsessed with the top 14, but do go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships and look at the scholarship estimator. Jen has already linked it in the chat. You can put in an LSAT and a GPA, and you can check a box or uncheck the box for your URM status. And using that information and public data, we have an algorithm that will predict your scholarships at all of the ABA schools. It's just a predictor. It's not like set in stone or anything, but we have found that people's outcomes align really pretty tightly with that scholarship estimator. And so you can use our estimator tool to figure out what kinds of schools. I recommend, as a default assumption, you should go to the best school that will give you a full ride.
Yeah,
okay?
if
The
you
best
don't
school
mind,
that's feasible for you that will give you a full ride. Sorry, go ahead, Colleen.
if you don't mind, like after the class, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your experience, just because I think stats wise, I might be very similar to you. So I just love to like hear your thoughts on it.
I am not going to be able to hang out after class because I do have another class, a 2-hour, all levels, all topics LSAT class to teach at the top of the hour. That's available for Demon Live subscribers. So I will be out of here on time today to go teach that class. Jen's going to hang out with you for a while though. So if you have conversations going on in the background, if you want to ask her questions after the class is over, you're welcome to do that. Let's move along to Camila and then Taranpreet.
Okay, thank you. Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if this is gonna apply to everyone, but you mentioned that we have to be gladiators of the English language. Do you have any tips for people who are not native English speakers?
Yeah, immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Read in English, write in English, talk to English speakers as much as possible. Look up words. This is for natives and non-natives alike. You need to be looking up words when you encounter a word in your LSAT prep as you're reviewing a question. If you don't know exactly what it means, you need to look it up. I think you guys should be looking up questions quite frequently as you do your LSAT prep. It's a simple right click in the browser most of the time. You can actually do that right in LSAT Demon. You can right click words and get definitions. You should be doing that all the time. I look up words every single day. I mean, I can't remember the last day that I didn't have a word that came up where I was like, oh, that's an interesting use of that word. What is that? I have a general sense of what you probably mean there, but let me look it up and see why you're using that word that way. It's one of the very best things you can do for enrichment. Read books is the main one. Read books. I don't care what book. I just care that you read books. Literally any book, as long as you want to read it, read that. And if you're going to be a smartass about it and go, but Nathan, this Dr. Seuss book will take me 5 minutes, I go, good, read it and then read something else. And if you want to read all of Dr. Seuss's whole catalog, great, that takes you an afternoon. Do that and then read something else. But the point is to just keep reading, have a habit of reading. Netflix is not your friend if you're trying to master English.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you, Camilla. Taranpreet, and then Anthony.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Nathan, for the class. I have a question. Since we talked about the question of schedule and how comprehension plays a big role in mostly all the tests, like reading comp, logical games, and logical and adaptive reasoning. My question is that would you recommend spending more time on the comprehension part if I want to get good at all three parts, a little bit more than the other two sections?
No, I would not. Thank you. That's a great question, Taranpreet. But actually, maybe kind of the reverse of that, believe it or not, because I think, or I know, I have seen it happen, that people make progress in logical reasoning, and then it can kind of like accidentally drag up their reading comprehension score. There are a lot of must-be true questions on the logical reasoning. There are must-be true questions, there are supported questions, there are reasoning questions, there are flaw questions. All of those question types, there are more of them, necessary assumption questions. There are lots of question types that are basically reading comprehension questions in disguise, or in miniature. And if you can get good at answering those evidence-based, passage-based types of LR questions, you can, that's what the reading comp is. I mean, the reading comp is just a whole bunch of must-be trues. Like almost every question, like I'm talking about 26 out of 27 questions on the reading comp are just, which one of these did it say in the passage? Which one of these must be true? And so when you're practicing logical reasoning, you're going to be doing lots of questions that are very similar to that. I have to go back though, Taranpreet, to my original recommendation, which was you should probably be roughly dividing your time 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 across all of the sections.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anthony, and then Monet, and we are going to transition a little bit into what's holding you back from your best score. Anthony, talk to me.
Thanks for this class, Nathan. I'm just new to the Demon, and I was just wondering, I don't know this world and how to diagram yet. Should I start drilling in logic games before I know how to diagram?
Absolutely, 100%. You should drill, as soon as this class is over, you should go drill logic games. And maybe you only do one game. When you get, so what I would want you to do, if you're just gonna go do a game, right? You're gonna drill games. I want you to attempt it on your own. I want you to see if you can solve the system, right? That's ultimately what we're doing. They've given you a system of rules. They've given you all the information you need to perfectly answer every single question. And I want you to just improvise. I want you to just solve it. But if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like I'm not making any inferences, maybe you think, oh, I don't even understand this rule. This question literally has 2 correct answers, or this other question has 0 correct answers. Well, there's something there that you don't understand. And at that point, you might want to watch one of our videos. But I would only watch that video to the extent that you feel unstuck. Hit pause and then work on it on your own. But it's really different, okay? LSAT Demon is really, really different. Your previous LSAT prep is different. Ours is better, but it is really different because we're not giving you theory first. We're giving you practice first. So we're always going to say, hey, dive right in. No big deal. Make some mistakes. When you're stuck, get the help you need with videos, written explanations, the ask button that's on every single page. And yeah, we have theoretical lessons. I mean, Abigail's been, and Jen have been posting all these resources. We have those resources in a lessons tab on the Demon, but we would never direct someone to start with the lessons tab. You only go to the lessons tab if there's like some topic area that you want to explore more of. The place to start is always drilling and maybe a timed section. And then, like I said, every other week or something, maybe a full test. But those questions, I mean, the LSAT is going to tell you what you suck at. The LSAT's going to go, wrong. And when they say wrong, well, you're wrong. And you need to understand why you're wrong. Does that make sense?
Got it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah. Monet.
Hey, Nathan. I hope you're well. I just wanted to know, how can I improve my grammar? Because I totally forgot what modifiers were. I'm not even sure if I learned that in elementary school. I don't remember going over grammar.
Why do you need, who talks about modifiers? Why do we need to know, what's a modifier?
Oh, I just heard someone say modifier in here.
Yeah, but that's LSAT speak. It's not going to ask you on the LSAT, like, what's the definition of a modifier? And by the way, what's a modifier? A modifier is a thing that changes another thing. It sounds like probably like an adjective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could say, hey, look at that guy. Or you could say, hey, look at that tall guy. Or, hey, look at that short guy. Pretty sure short and tall there are modifying the guy. And that's all a modifier is. Yeah, we are very different. Do not get caught up in these dumb lessons, like you read something in a book, or you took some other LSAT class and you've got now all this terminology. That shit is crowding your brain and not helping you actually understand the words that are on the argument in front of you or on the reading comp in front of you. We're going to encourage you, if you become one of the hundreds of refugees from these other books or other websites or other classes, if you become one of these, I'm serious, hundreds of refugees from other programs, we're going to encourage you to forget, basically. Like, yeah, let go of all that. Let's look at this question. Can you figure out this question? And that's all we're ever really doing.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Monet. Elizabeth.
Yeah, hey there. Thank you so much for this. So I have taken the LSAT. I guess I am a refugee from other prep programs. I've taken the LSAT twice already. And I basically got the same score, like maybe like 3 points better than my practice score. And I don't know if it's worth retaking it a third time, because I heard an admissions counselor say that it doesn't look good, right? Okay.
Bullshit. Okay.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
That is such bullshit. Well, look, no, what doesn't look good is you don't have a good score. Like, your best score is bad. Your best score on record is bad. Whether you had taken it 1 time or 5 times, I don't care. Your best score is bad. Law schools are admitting you based on your highest LSAT score. They're giving you scholarships based on your highest LSAT score. The reason why law schools are so intensely interested in your highest LSAT score is because that's what they report to the American Bar Association. That's what US News uses when they rank law schools. Their public prestige depends on your highest LSAT score. And so, Elizabeth, hey, in a perfect world, the perfect applicant, oh, they took it once and they got a 180. Great. You're not a perfect applicant. You have 2 worse scores on record. But if you think you can do better, then you should always take it again until you're out of attempts. I mean that literally. Okay, so you're gonna hear the schools sometimes. I don't even know why they say this. It's just trash. I take it back. I do know why schools say this, because they want you to apply. They have no incentive to make you a better applicant. Excuse me. They don't want you to be a better applicant. They want you to be an applicant, because once you're an applicant, if your numbers are good enough, they can admit you. And if your numbers are bad, they can happily dismiss you. They can happily reject you, because everybody that they reject increases the prestige of their school, literally in the rankings. One of the rankings components is so-called yield. And what yield is how many people actually went to their school from the number of applications or number of admissions that they granted. And so everybody that they dismiss, it just like raises their prestige. So when they tell you, oh, write a personal statement about, like that childhood, why you wanted to be a lawyer, that's terrible advice for writing a good personal statement. But they don't give good advice because they don't have any incentive to give good advice. They just want your application. So they're telling you basically, oh, write about whatever you want. Oh,
Yeah.
you don't need to, no, I mean, you can apply with whatever LSAT. And that's
Mhm.
because their incentives are not aligned with yours.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're
Okay.
selling you a very expensive product, but I mean it. Again, I want to make it
Mhm.
clear that if you've taken it once and didn't do your best, you should take it a second time. And
Okay.
if you've taken it 4 times and you still
Mhm.
haven't done your best, you
Mhm.
should take it a 5th time, because
Okay.
applicant A took it 4 times, never got a good score. Applicant
Yeah.
B took it 5 times, did eventually get a good score. And the first 4
Yeah.
scores, by the way, are identical because it's you.
Yeah.
And you took it again, and you went from definitely no to, hey, wow, look at that high LSAT. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's a good point. Thank you so much for your advice.
Excellent. Getting close to wrapping it up here. 5 minutes left. Kyle, what can I do for you?
Sorry, I have 2 mics, so I have to keep track of what's muted and what's not. I got 2 questions for you. First one is, you've talked about this on Thinking LSAT, but for the LSAT writing, spend no more than a day studying for it, right?
Spend no more than an hour studying for it. Actually, spend no more than 15 minutes studying.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said on it.
We have a lesson in the Demon where we walk through just a very easy, it's like, here's one example, and we walk through a little rubric for how to do it. It's the easiest writing assignment you're ever going to do. Also, it's not even scored. So the world's best writing sample is not worth 1 more LSAT point. If you're going to spend an hour, get 1 more LSAT point. Don't worry about the writing sample at all. I would recommend watching a video and then just immediately take the writing sample. Question number 2, Kyle?
Yeah, my second question is, let's say I wanted to practice law in Florida, then what I would be doing is trying to either go to a national school or a university and a law school in Florida, right?
I mean, unless you get into Stanford, which
Well,
has
yeah.
an excellent reputation in Florida, in the entire world, right?
Well,
Or Harvard or Yale or whatever. But if you're gonna go for a scholarship, Kyle, you're a Thinking LSAT listener, so you've probably taken the "don't pay for law school" pill already. If you've drank that Kool-Aid, then you're probably going to go to a slightly lower ranked school than the very best one you could get into. You shouldn't go to the best school you can get into. You should go to the best full ride.
Exactly.
And when you get to that point, no, I would not go to Hastings in San Francisco if you're from Florida. If you want to be in Florida, you should probably go to law school closer to Florida. If you want to move to California, and Hastings gives you a full ride, then fine, go do that. But if you want to stay in Florida, you should probably go to a regional school somewhere in Florida. Well,
I'm from Michigan, but I'm saying if I wanted to practice in Florida.
Oh, got it. Sorry, I missed that. If you wanted to practice in Florida, a really good way to do that is to start by going to law school in Florida. All right, I got to go in 3 minutes, so let's see if I can do Dana, is it? And then Drew real fast.
Hi, just a quick question. So you mentioned previously that you should take the LSAT as many times for you to get your best score.
Yes.
But do you think that you should cancel a bad score if you can? No canceling?
Don't take the test unless your practice test scores indicate that you're ready. Don't register for a test until the practice scores indicate that you're ready. Once your practice scores indicate that you're ready, take the test officially and just accept what you get. A cancel and a bad score are the exact same thing. They see that you canceled, it uses one of your attempts. They don't see the number, they're gonna assume it's bad. There's no point in canceling. So there's no point in score preview. Don't give extra money. Don't sign up for score preview. It's a waste of money. All right, Drew.
Yeah, so just going off of the thing of what's holding you back from the test score. So every time I take a section, it's usually I have my goal of which 3 to get in terms of what I'd want on my actual test, and then usually one of them's out of line, when I actually take the test. So I was just wondering if you had any advice on how to be consistent. One time my logical reasoning score might be perfect, and then my reading comprehension's terrible, and then vice versa on the other one.
Get better at the test. Just get better at the test. There is no such thing as consistency until you reach perfection on the test, and that is extremely rare. You are sometimes perfect, but not always perfect on all 3 sections, it sounds like. The reason why you are sometimes perfect, but not always perfect, is because there is randomness. So the truth is, you're not perfect on the games every time. If you're not perfect on the games every time, then you're not perfect on the games every time. So sometimes when you take a full test, you're not going to be perfect on the games. It's really simpler than you think, but it's a common thing that people really pursue this goal of consistency, even though consistency is not really what we're going for. What we're going for is understanding. And eventually, if we can get to perfect, then okay, that's where consistency is. But until we're always perfect, we're just not always perfect. Thank you, Drew. I got to go. Hope to see you guys in my LSAT Demon classes or as an LSAT Demon subscriber at whatever level. It is the best LSAT prep money can buy. Trust me, you don't need anything else. You only need LSAT Demon. Trust me. And I would love to show you how easy it can be over there. Gotta go. See you back here in a couple weeks for another free class. Thanks. Bye.